Today's gospel reading on the ascension of our Lord is the last 10 verses of Luke's gospel, 40 days after the resurrection. Jesus is being carried into heaven. And then, finding themselves alone, those who he had with him, the apostles and others, returned to Jerusalem and were continually in the temple, blessing God. Now, I believe that to be true. Those with Jesus, when he ascended, returned to Jerusalem as they were told, and they were constantly blessing God for all that they had witnessed and experienced and understood. Not only were they constantly in the temple, but they themselves were living witnesses of all that they had experienced and understood, putting faith and knowledge to action, going therefore, as Jesus had ordered, to make believers of all nations, with a message that soon lit the world on fire and changed the way that the world thought and the way that the world lived. However, I also find at the core of this passage is a question. What do we do when we feel like Jesus is gone? What do we do when we feel like we are left in the dark? An answer I find to that is that we go looking for where we know we can find Jesus, in the temple, in the act of worship, in the community of faith, and that is part of the answer. The other part is that we remember all that we have learned from Jesus, all that Christ has shown us through deeds of power, miracles, and the like. And we do our best to usher into reality the world that Jesus foretold, the world that Jesus promised us. A world where the widowed, the poor, and the orphan are cared for. A world where we know that the answer to the question, who is my neighbor, is everybody. A world where an eye for an eye has been replaced with the golden rule, love your neighbor as yourself. A world where we feel deeply, where we care passionately, where we live generously, where we do boldly. It's a world where we do not normalize a world on fire, but proclaim that there is a light in the darkness and that the darkness shall not overcome it. And then we follow that light. We follow that light through the darkness, despite the darkness, and in the face of that darkness. This past week, this is the world I have had to remind myself about. These are the teachings and promises of Jesus I have had to remind myself about. On May 24th, when 19 girls and boys and 2 teachers were slain at school in Uvalde, Texas. In that moment, like the apostles on the ascension, I felt like Christ had left us. I felt like I was standing alone and not sure what to do next, staring at the sky and wondering what will happen next, now that the world has changed. Though the sad truth is, I realized that the world has not really changed, as that was a feeling I had felt before. December 14th, 2012. I was standing in a gym in Avon, Connecticut, and watching the news reports from Newtown, Connecticut, 48 miles away, where a shooter killed 26 people, 20 of them children between the ages of 6 and 7, the ages where children typically learn of the tooth fairy and lose their baby teeth, not their lives. This week, like 10 years ago, I have seen an outpouring of images and nice words on the internet, a reminder of thoughts and prayers being reflective of the apostles running to Jerusalem and the temple after Jesus' ascension, when they truly felt alone. Thoughts turning to him, prayers lifted up, thanks for his comfort in mourning their loneliness. Joy for having known him and a desire for him to show them what's next. However, that is not where the story ends. Luke's account does not end with the last verse of his gospel. It continues with the Acts of the Apostles. In fact, this is where our action begins on this Ascension Sunday. It is where the ministry of Jesus becomes fully the ministry and action of his church. Now, let me stop here for just a moment. I am not insinuating or proclaiming that we need in any way to eradicate the Second Amendment. That is not my talking point, my cause, nor my belief. What I am saying is that there should be a demand from the voice of the Church of Jesus Christ to care for one another and figure out a way to provide safety for all people, especially the least of these. Now, I have heard some say that the answer is more armed guards in schools, maybe even to the point of arming teachers, though I cannot think of too many, if any, situations where increasing the issue creates a positive solution. A town that is overrun by lions do not import more lions to balance them out. Nor does a boat that is sinking pour water into a sinking ship to try to create an equilibrium. And it is worth a mention that there are parts of our country wherein officials do not trust educators to choose and teach their own curriculum, though they would have them armed and trained around students. So teachers that are not trusted to teach should be trusted and expected to be first-line defenders. I have a hard time making sense out of that in my head. Worse is that it deflects the bigger issue. If the answer is, well, we need more armed guards in schools, then that would seem to me to be a school issue. Though a wider answer would be, we need more armed guards at places where mass shootings happen. Those places in 2022 have included schools and churches and supermarkets and subways and shopping malls and neighborhoods and funerals and after-prom parties and sporting events and bars and house parties and gas stations, to name a few. So at what point does the shift happen from their problem to our problem? Our problem as a people, as a nation, as human beings, as the church. Now, I am not a politician, I am not a lawyer, or any kind of person who develops legislation, though I can see plainly that something must be done. Consider this. The most condemnable action of Pontius Pilate over Holy Week was his inaction. Pilate knew that Jesus was innocent, so he sent him to Herod. He believed Jesus was innocent, and yet the loud crowd yelled loudly. He talked to Jesus. He tried to make sense of the crowd's uproar and rage and suspicion. But in the end, he washed his hands of the situation, a sign of his conceptual innocence. It wasn't his choice. He let the crowd decide, though his true guilt was his inaction. The choice to not act in the face of injustice is a choice to serve as the accomplice of evil. To do, to try, even if not to understand, even if one does not see the needle move, is to stand on the correct side of history, to act for those who cannot defend themselves, to care for children, and to protect one another. That is what it means to follow Christ along the way. For what does Jesus call us to do if not to act, to feed the hungry, to care for the afflicted, to welcome the children? Consider the miracles of Jesus and the power bestowed on the apostles. Then the Great Commission, to go, therefore, make believers of all nations. What part of our faith seems to be cemented in an inability to act? Are we paralyzed by public opinion? Are we scared that following on the way might actually cost something? Are we devastated that we might actually have to pick up our cross to follow Christ? What is not acting costing others? What has it already cost us? What did it cost those children and those teachers? I don't know what the answer is, but I know that there is a light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness will not overcome it. I know that we are called to follow that light, and it's hard to follow if you don't move, if it's always their issue and not mine. What I see is that the American concepts of freedom, might, and self-reliance, as we have developed them and symbolized them, for some through the use of semi-automatic and military-grade weapons, is apparently more valuable in our country than safety and the lives of children. Consider this. For decades leading up to 2020, automobile accidents were the leading cause of death among children and adolescents in our country. That changed in 2020, when firearm-related deaths took that devilish top spot. Why? Cars have become safer and driver education has improved. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and others have pushed actively for better child safety in cars, taking a scientific approach to the problem. Firearm-related deaths haven't made much progress, and in fact have increased in recent years, whereas we have seen a decrease in motor vehicle deaths. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration saw there was an issue, they identified it, action was taken, and slowly resolve has started to come home. The sad truth is that this is a story of two different numbers, one that is slowly coming down, and the other that is steadily rising. Maybe the first step is to identify that we have an issue. We as a country, we as people who believe in the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Why then does it seem that the concept of liberty outweighs the reality of life and in tune negates the pursuit of happiness? Why does the idea of a concept trump the beating hearts of women, men, and children? How have we gone from life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to a culture that values the idea of liberty over life itself? A creator has given us this creation and each other to care for. A creator who sent his only son to teach us how to love one another. We believe that we were given these unalienable rights by that creator. The Creator whose begotten Son came to remind us that there is a light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness shall not overcome it. When we feel alone, when the darkness feels too great, when the sickness of the world feels insurmountable, the darkness shall not overcome it. Miracles are powerful actions taken in unexpected circumstances. May we be so brave. May we be so brave to act miraculously in seemingly insurmountable circumstances, to be a voice of love, hope, healing, and peace in a hostile and divided conversation, a reminder of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. To offer our thoughts and prayers in temple, yes, and then to go forth carrying the ministry of the church to a nation so hurt, so divided, and so in need of the care and healing that Christ offers. As we gather, as we look out at the news of our country and feel maybe like those apostles, like Jesus is gone, may we see in their action our next step, to go forth, to move ahead, to continue with the acts of the apostles. May we understand that we have a problem together. May we continue following along the way, advocating for changes that protect the least of these. May we all take steps forward that ensure life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness for all of creation. Amen.